Hi friends, Mindy here. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be part 3 in a start to finish series for this journal. If you don't recall seeing parts 1 and 2, it's probably because they were months and months ago. So I'm trying to get some projects finished up. This has been in my project cart next to my desk for literally months. The first video was like 5 months ago, and I think the second video was like 3 months ago. So I'm just going to do a quick flip through to kind of remind us where we are with this journal. I will try to remember the links for those two videos in case you want to see them, but just a few pieces of information about this journal. It's a small little journal in terms of size. It's about 4 by 5.5. It has 1.5 inch spine, a little less than that. It's got 3 signatures. Each signature actually has a different number of pages, and there's also some things like some glassine and paper bags and things sewn in, but it does offer I went through and counted, and there are like over 120 sides, so lots and lots of room for journaling. You can kind of see in here. So this first one, I think it had like 12 pages in it, so you have 24, and then both sides, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do a really quick flip through so you can kind of see. I do have some little pockets and things that I have already created, and some stuff that I've pulled from my stash that is going to go into this journal. I just haven't done this part of part 3. And so I'm going to be doing some pockets and things today. I need to actually make some. I have more tuck spots and tags and things than I do actual pockets, but we'll address that in a minute. I just want to do a quick flip through of what's in here. So this is just some coffee dyed paper. This is a vintage ledger. This is from 1933. I have a hymnal page in here. This is a vintage ledger hymnal. This is a vintage book as well. This one, I love this one because it's got these really fun like line art botanical type things in it. I just think it's really interesting. You can still write over it. I feel like it just is something that gives a little bit of visual interest. And then this is from like a planner from 1955, it looks like. This is like an English book. This is a book of, I think it was railroad securities, but I liked it because this right here, there's a date of July 1st, 1904. So that's fun. This is some poems. I have a glassine envelope in here. I really love glassine. I like that it's crinkly, and I like that it's transparent. And so I need to trim up the edge of it a little bit here. But it'll just make a fun little pocket. That's some index paper, and then here's another one of those pages. I left some of the rough edges from these pages and things because I like that in a junk journal. I just think it's more fun. And then the backside of this glassine, I have not opened up. So when I go to decorate this, I will make that decision at that time whether I want this to be a side loading pocket or a top loading. And I always do that with anything that I kind of sew in that's like a bag or an envelope. I kind of wait until I'm decorating the journal to really decide how I want to do that. So here's the back side of all of those pages, and then we'll get into the second signature, which also starts out with one of those beautiful papers that has the line art on it. Some of the pages from signature to signature are the same. There's again, there's that planner page, a little bit of coffee dyed. This is from a vintage botanical book. And this paper, which I really love, this is a blue page, and it's like a check payout. This is dated February 3rd, 1890. And so this is basically a bunch of receipts, and I love it, mostly because it's really, really old and it's in such good condition. Here I also have a little brown paper bag. Again, this one is sewn in. I like that this one says vintage on it, and I don't know if I'll trim it down for side loading or for a top loading. So again, that's just how I do all of my kind of bags and things when I'm working through the process. Again, some of those same pages. This is that same a vintage ledger. It's just this part is not written on. And then going through really quickly those same, and then here's that same page, but it's actually really long. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this as a little flip out, which is kind of fun, or I may glue down the side and just keep that as a top loading pocket as well. I haven't quite decided I like the little flip outs. I'm all about kind of interactive envelope or, pieces and envelopes and just different things. I just think it adds a lot of fun. Again, there's that vintage botanical. Here's that coffee dyed. I do have this folded over just a little bit because if you saw when it was closed, things are sticking out just a little bit. I kind of like that, but I know that's not for everybody, so I may need to address that. I haven't quite decided if I'm just going to leave the edges. You guys could let me know in the comments. Do you like things sticking out past the cover, or do you want everything kind of neatly tucked inside? I kind of think it's fun, but again, let me know your thoughts on that. Here's more of those same papers here again, because we're just on the back side. This is that same 1933 ledger. It's just all beautifully filled out, which I love. And again, back with the same 1955 calendar page here, another glassine. I'll need to trim that down just a little bit. And there's that line art again, the annuities, stocks and bonds, I guess. And another little coffee dyed paper right here in the middle. Not sure how I'm going to do that. I may tear off some of these edges. I may just make them into side loading tuck spots or pockets. We'll just see how we go. This is actually from some poetry. Here's the back side of that glassine. Again, I'll have to decide how I want to do that. And then ending on that beautiful ledger. This is a Tim Holtz backdrop that it makes the end paper for the inside cover of this journal. So it is covered in fabric. And so it's not a real rigid, because I think this was a box of some kind that I recycled. So it's not a real rigid chipboard or bookboard, which is going to be good because this is going to get chunky fast. So I am now going to put you on fast forward. I'm going to get some pockets in here and maybe see what else I can do in this video. Don't want it to get super long, but and also let me know if you would like to see more in this series. Parts 4 and however many of doing the ephemera and all those kinds of things. I do have some of that already pre-done, so hopefully this journal won't take me forever to finish up now that I have pulled it from my to-do cart. But I'm just going to put you on fast forward. I'm going to start making some pockets and getting some stuff done in here. Again, let me know your thoughts on the edge of the pages and also, on seeing future start to finish videos, particularly for this journal. And I have another journal also sitting in my cart. So let me know your thoughts on that, and we'll see how much we can get done in this video. Okay, so I'm going to start with these 3 file folders that I have. I'm going to glue these down as wraparound pockets. These are from By the Well for God. I've had them in my stash from my devotional kits. They were just ones that I didn't use. And so I'm going to glue them down. I'm gluing them along the bottom and along the edge. And this is just going to make it like a tuck spot. And so you could leave it as a little flip out. The only reason I didn't leave it as a flip out here is because the inside doesn't necessarily match kind of the theme of my journal. Is really kind of trying to stick to the blues. And then I'm making sure to add one of these to each of the signatures. And I've mentioned this before in my journals in my process videos. Whenever I'm working on a journal, I really do try to keep everything kind of evenly dispersed in my journal in terms of pockets and tuck spots and things. And that's especially true when I have a journal that has multiple signatures, simply because it's very easy, at least for me, to like really super decorate the first signature and then realize that my journal is getting too chunky and it's going to make doing the other signatures even more difficult, or they're just going to make the journal far too chunky. So this is a way for me, you'll kind of see me just flipping back and forth through the signatures, but it's just a way for me to make sure that I'm getting everything kind of even throughout the journal, and also so that you don't have one signature that's really decorated and one that doesn't have a whole lot in it. So this first pocket that I'm gluing down here is pocket. These are pockets I have had in my stash. These were made from old book paper and some Tim Holtz collage paper, and I love how these turned out. These technically are supposed to be top loading pockets, but I think they're going to work okay on their side. I love the distressed aspect of them. I love the kind of black and white along with the kind of pops of color in this journal. And so I think I'm just going to leave them. I don't think I will decorate them any further. I really love how these pockets turned out. I need to make some more of them. And then I'm just dispersing them throughout this journal again. And I'm just going through and adding them, where I see fit. And those file folders in particular, I made sure to adhere those to some of the heavier weight papers in this journal. So I have these pockets that I made out of some book paper and then a couple of other pockets that I had pre-made. and this item from Your Creative Studio that I'm going to use as a pocket. This one is just, it's like just ever so slightly too large for this journal. And so I'm going to set that off to the side and use this kind of tuck spot that I made. This is actually out of some packaging and a vintage bingo card. And then I realized I had put glue where I didn't want it, so I had to wipe that off. And then I'm just going to use this as a little kind of tuck spot pocket, kind of side loading. It just lets you get something larger in there when you glue them down on the two sides like that. So this is like I said, Your Creative Studio piece, and I thought I had more of these actually. I do have more of the butterflies, but not of the blue ones. And so I'm just going to glue this down as a pocket. It's a heavier weight paper, and so I think it's going to work fine as a pocket. And then I have these that I had created a while back, just folded out of some book paper. And I really love these pockets because you can fit a lot of stuff in it. And as I was getting ready to glue this down, I realized this is probably not going to be a good idea for this journal, simply because it's going to add a lot of bulk. And so by the time I added 3 of those, plus filled all of the pockets that was in it, it was just going to be too much. And the same with this page. I was going to cut this one down, just trim it down to be, the height. But again, by the time I filled all the pockets that were actually in that pocket, it was just going to be too much. So now I'm just going to start filling these pockets that I just created with some items that I have already created and just had these in my stash. And so I am deciding on a couple of things here along the way, like this glassine envelope. I decided to just go ahead and trim that down a little bit. And I'll put a little tag or journaling card or something in there as we go. But I did want to just clean up the edge of that. And so some of these pieces are decorated with items from the Junk Journal Studio. These are with the Botanical Collage and Cluster Mega Pack, the blue add-on, and some of them are just things that I've had in my stash, again, Tim Holtz type things. And so these were just a bunch of journaling cards that I had already created that have been in my stash for a while. So I'm still trying to decide what to do about, the fact that some of these pages stick out past the cover. So I decided, until I make that decision completely, I'm going to just add this, or make this paper bag into a top loader. That way, if I need to, I can trim it along the side and glue it back down and just make it a shorter pocket. And then here is a little tip. If you have something like a really thin paper bag or glassine even, if you add another piece of paper when you're punching it, it helps you get a cleaner edge. Sometimes, at least my punches don't always like to cooperate. And so I put one of those tags in there and it just was not tall enough. So I'm going to replace that with a different one. And these may end up in a bunch of different places before the time of this journal is finished. But for now, I just wanted to have an idea of what's going to go in these pockets. I started adding this tag in there, and then I realized I really wanted to put a journaling card in there. And I've come back to this receipt and I just really love this. So I don't think I'm going to do anything to it, because if I leave it like it is as a little flip out, there's plenty of writing and journaling space on the inside of it. So I'm just probably going to end up leaving that instead of creating it into a pocket. Also, if I have a pocket, then it has to be filled with something, and that just adds more bulk. And there's also that pocket right there already from the file folder. So I decided to just go ahead and leave that for now, and just use it as a little little flip out. And here is that glassine envelope that had kind of the torn top. And so I'm going to go through and do the same thing. I will actually use as another sticky note and put on there, and cut the little rounded hole part. I found the little tiny tag that I had made that has a butterfly on it that's going to be perfect for this pocket, which is why I'm flipping back to it, so that I can just make sure it's going to fit in there, and it does. And so now I need to address that little punch out part, which, like I said, I'm just going to do the same thing with putting a little sticky note on there and using my punch to make the little notch for that. And it's going to hold that really nice in there. And I like the fact that you can kind of see the tag through it as well. Again, here's another side loading pocket. I really just want a journaling card in there, so I'll make one that fits. And so in journals like this, sometimes, I do the ephemera decorating in the pockets and all of those things ahead of time. Sometimes I kind of do it as I go. This one will be in some ways a little bit more of an as I go kind of situation. These ones that I have done already are easy to just kind of tuck in the pockets, but I do want to decorate some of the pockets and the file folders a little bit more as I go through. And then you'll see here, I'm about to add these black and white pages as side loading tuck spots. And so I will want to decorate these as well. But I'm trying to be very mindful of how bulky I get this journal and how quickly. So, you know, I can't add a whole lot of decoration in terms of like really super chunky embellishments or anything like that. So I'm just going to be careful of that. And there are some pockets that are like taller or skinnier that I may have to make something specific to that size. And so that's how I will work through this particular journal. Like I said, sometimes I have it all kind of done ahead of time and I can just plug it in. But because these pages vary so much in size and it's a smaller journal anyway, I really need to make sure that everything's going to fit in there okay. And also, like I said, trying to be just careful that I don't get it too chunky. I don't mind a chunky journal. I like chunky journals. But there comes a point where I feel like it becomes almost unusable if it gets too chunky. So you can see I'm just cutting these down. I'm using these actually on some of the shorter pages in this book. This one I think was like the book of poetry that I had in there. And there just had like kind of a wide margin that was open. Felt like it was a good space to add the little pocket, and then that way this page isn't quote unquote wasted because you can actually add a little tag or whatever. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All my links, including my website and my Facebook group, will be down in the description. I'd love to have you join me over there. And until next time, bye.